Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at potentially your new favorite army builder. Just a basic white clone. I've been waiting for this guy forever, and luckily to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones, Hot Toys decided, yep, now is the time. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have pay in 4 and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. I probably shouldn't assume and say stuff like your new favorite army builder. It's definitely going to be mine, but I know not everyone obsesses over clones like I do. On the front of the box, we do have an image of the figure himself wearing the Phase 1 bucket, Star Wars, and down below, Clone Trooper, plus a sneaky little 20 years of Attack of the Clones logo. On the side of the box, nothing crazy, just the two-tone aesthetic that we saw on the front of the box. A grey strip and then a black one, plus down below Disney and Star Wars. And on the back of the box, warnings and legal info, as to be expected. But that's not all for the artwork. There's actually some way better artwork hidden underneath the slipcover. Oh, this is more like it. Not only is this some super heavy-duty cardboard, but the artwork is gorgeous. It gives me that classic vintage Star Wars feel. It kinda makes this guy look like a massive vintage Star Wars figure, and that is right up my alley. Front and center, an open window showcasing the Clone Trooper inside. Down below, an image of a Phase 1 clone. Yes, that's the figure. Clone Trooper with this pop of blue. And down the bottom, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Off to one side though, a metallic foil sticker that says 20 years of Episode 2. On the side, we have another image of the Clone Trooper with Geonosis in the background. That is a stunning pop of color, by the way. Down below, Clone Trooper and a read-up. Feel free to pause to read. See what I mean? This artwork is just so much more eye-catching compared to what we have on the slipcover. On the back, another image of the Phase 1 clone, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, and all the warnings and legal info, but it's kind of overshadowed by this stunning artwork. Now, it's pretty clever that Hot Toys have quite clearly marketed this guy as an Attack of the Clones figure, but back around the front, as plain as day, if you flip open this magnetic top cover, you can see a Phase 2 bucket. What's that all about? Well, we will discuss it in just a second. Which is code for now. So Hot Toys, they knew that they couldn't just sell this as a Phase 1 clone, because people would be pissed. They would say, no, I'm not army building, I'll just wait for the Phase 2 version. So they said, no need, we'll just include a Phase 2 bucket. So we're pretty much doubling our potential market, because people who want Phase 1 clones, this is the one for you. People who want just plain white Phase 2 clones, this is also the one for you. So they've captured way more collectors than they would have if this was just Phase 1. First in-hand impressions, yeah, it's a Hot Toys clone. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, which is rectangular. We do have this two-tone effect going on, where it's this gunmetal grey down below, and up on top for the Star Wars style flooring, more of a greenish grey, but still grey. Now the flooring, pretty versatile, I guess. It could be a Venator, or it could be the barracks on Kamino, or it could be a command platform on Geonosis. As long as you have a Star Wars-y imagination, I'm sure you can fit this somewhere in the collection. But I was hoping for more. Call me crazy, but with all that Geonosis artwork on the box art, I was hoping for, at the very least, a removable piece of cardboard you could pop on top to replicate Geonosis. Around the front though, Star Wars on an etched metal nameplate with Clone Trooper down below, and up top, an adjustable crotch grabber. Voting time, ladies and gents. Let me know down below in the comments section, which one do you prefer, Phase 1 clone helmets or Phase 2? If I had to pick, oh, it's Phase 1 all the way, baby. I've loved these helmets ever since I saw them for the first time on screen in the cinema watching Attack of the Clones. I'm just enamored by the way this looks. It comes to a point around the front. I mean, look how angular this darn thing is. It's got this big T-shaped visor just like a Mandalorian, and as we know, Mandalorians are sick as hell. Plus, the visor itself in 1/6 scale is actually a separate piece of translucent black plastic, so there's a bit of depth there. He also has that super iconic helmet fin that I was really sad to see go for Phase 2. But I understand they had to get rid of it because they had to bridge the gap between clone troopers and stormtroopers, so that fin, it had to go. Luckily this time though, look at that pop of red, Hot Toys. I'm so proud of you. With the Phase 1 501st helmet, they forgot the red and I was really disappointed, but it's back and it looks really good. There's this grille that's been quite well painted, and we also have dirt and grime pretty much everywhere, collected in all the crevices, around the mouth grille section and around the fin, but Hot Toys, that line, it's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be a smooth transition between the fin and the top of the helmet. Unfortunately, they done goofed and they made the fin a separate piece of plastic. Also, these sections on the mouth area, the end pieces, they're far too chunky. They should be significantly thinner. So even though I love Phase 1 and I'm probably going to be displaying most of my clones wearing this bucket, it's not super accurate. As for the Phase 2 helmet, this one I think is super accurate and it is equally as stunning as Phase 1. The paint application's super similar, the black stripe, the grey section, the grille around the back, and also the blue stripes, which people were questioning if they would add them or not. They're definitely there. The visor, once again a separate piece of plastic, and you do have a pop of silver for the little ports down below. Plus, if you happen to have macro binoculars from previous clones, they are compatible. You can actually pop these earpieces out, which isn't super easy to do. But if you wanted to pop them on, pop the ears out, then slide the macro binoculars on. Like I said, it's all compatible. So too is the backpack, because it's literally just a clone backpack. If you wanted to pop it on Obi-Wan or Anakin or Ahsoka, these straps, they are adjustable, so you can loosen them or tighten them and pop it on the requisite figure. Now the sculpt, relatively sharp, but the paint applications, even sharper. There's scratching around the edges. This thing looks like it's been through hell. It's been dragged along the floor, the ground on Geonosis and probably Camino, and this thing, it has seen some action. We have the Republic cog, and up top, a canvas/fabric flap that, yes, is openable. We also have a magnet, so when you close it, it's pretty secure. On the side, it is attached with Velcro, so if you wanted, you can remove this entirely. Plus, look at that, they've even included some weathering on the inside. Totally unnecessary, but details like that, they make me really happy. Now, one of the best parts about including a backpack like this is if you wanted to, you can store his spare hands inside, so when you want to change the pose, no need to go hunting for the box. You can literally open up the backpack and, what do you know, all the hands are inside. It just makes changing out bits and pieces that much easier. Moving on to weaponry, starting off with the smallest of the bunch first, the DC-15C Blaster Carbine. The iron sights around the front are this rubbery plastic, so no worries when it comes to breakage when you're trying to wrangle this darn thing in his hand, which is a bit of a chore because this handle is super chunky. It is, however, kind of flat, so fingers crossed if the hands are soft enough, you should be able to get it in no problem. I'm so sorry. Now, this piece also can be moved forward and back, but why? It's not functional in any way. It's far too thin for the handle to pass through, so it doesn't work as a stock. And it's far too weak to work as a monopod, as though this is supposed to be balanced on a wall or something. So if you do know what this is for, please let me know down below. Put me out of my misery. I've been guessing forever, and I still don't really know. Now, the paint application's on point. It's done in this base layer of gunmetal, so when the light hits it, it glints and looks metallic. We have silver dry brushing everywhere, on every raised edge, including this grippy section for the handle, and also a couple of pops of copper, just to break it up. I can't overstate how much I love a pop of color, whether it's a pop of copper on the DC-15C or this red and green on the rocket launcher. When there's something that's pretty much devoid of color looking gunmetal with the silver dry brushing and they add red or green in, it makes a massive difference, and it does here too. With the sight, green and that little red dot, but around the front, not sure what's going on here, but there's not actually a hole, so what is this actually firing? I honestly would have loved to have been able to insert a rocket in there or even a blast effect, but you can't. As you can see, it's completely sculpted over. Whereas with the DC-15C, there's an actual hole, for the barrel. Now, the sculpt work is impressive, and this thing is quite long, but this handle, I can already tell, is going to be an absolute nightmare to work with. Now, there is some silver dry brushing just like the DC-15C, but it's a little bit different. It's not just on the raised edges, it's all over the entire thing, so this thing looks even more metallic. Enter the big boy. This is one BFG. It's the DC-15A blaster rifle. A little bit more of a long-range weapon. And yes, we've seen this one before as well. Now, I was literally just complaining about getting that handle actually in his grip, because the hands aren't actually super flexible, but, you can see the issue, right? This grip is really tight, and these handles, they are super chonky, so trying to finagle these in, never easy. So I would suggest heating up the hands first, either in hot water or with a hairdryer. Now, the sculpt work on this thing, really good, and I love, once again, I'm gonna say it, a pop of color. You can see this barrel has been superheated as this bad boy has been blasting some clankers. Also gunmetal for the base layer, and of course that silver dry brushing over the top. But with this blaster, there's also some dirt and grime in the crevices, specifically down below where the clone trooper would have been holding this rifle. And lastly, some clone trooper hands. Now, Hot Toys, I'm not sure what's going on, maybe you're running out of plastic for clone hands, but why are you giving us less and less hands every time? We used to get pairs, you stopped doing that. We used to get closed fists, you've now stopped doing that. We don't have closed fists here, which is really annoying. Because if you just want a clone standing there with his fist clenched, maybe he's standing at attention, or maybe he's about to smack a clanker, you can't get that done. Like I said, super frustrating. The hands that you do get though, a couple of gesturing hands, this one's pointing with some fingers, this one's pointing with one finger, one open palm hand and a thumbs up, and you also get some trigger finger hands, one for either side, plus some gripping hands that are already on the figure. But Hot Toys, for hands, the more the merrier, please. Give us the full array going forward. What we are going to do now though is get the clone trooper himself out here, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Now, my goal with this review is to make it as information rich as possible for those who have never seen a Hot Toys clone before, but also not overly tedious and boring for those who have. So I'm not going to leave it at it's a white clone trooper, and I'm not going to go through every single tiny little detail. So I'm going for a pretty delicate balance. Fingers crossed I'm able to pull it off. Starting off with his body, it's reuse. They've grabbed it from the clone parts bin, and I'm actually perfectly fine with that because it's in the name. He's a clone trooper. So his body should be the exact same as all of his clone brothers, and luckily it is. His ribbed fabric bodysuit is black fabric, which is great for posing and accurate to the film. Then over the top of the bodysuit, the armor is really nicely sculpted and it hugs the body where it needs to. Speaking of the body, the proportions, they're on point, and the armor definitely helps with that. It's not too big and bulky, and it's not too tight and scrawny looking either. Plus, the white finish, I thought this could be really stark and kind of bland, but there is a ton of surface detail here. Plus, the realism is on point, so I still think this guy's going to stand out in the collection, even though he is mostly just white. Now that I've said that though, if Hot Toys ever did get around to making shinies, I'd be all in. Of course I would. Keep the realistic proportions, keep the sculpt for the armor, but ditch all the weathering and make them super glossy and shiny, fresh from the factory on Camino. Up close and personal, kicking things off with his Phase 1 bucket first. We have discussed both helmets in a lot more detail in the accessory segment, but on the body, it fits well. It does, however, look a little bit big. It's not crazy and it doesn't throw out the proportions too much, but compared to the Phase 2 bucket on the body, I reckon the Phase 2 one looks a little bit more in proportion. I don't know if I'm going crazy. Please, let me know down below. Which of the two helmets do you prefer now that you've seen both of them on the body? For me, I'm actually starting to lean towards Phase 2, even though you all know I adore this Phase 1 bucket. Something to note though is this seal around his neck is really tight, so it does limit articulation just a little bit more than the Phase 2 helmet. Around the back, we do have this detailed little panel thing with the dots and the various little greebly pieces with washers in the crevices, and over the top of this armor plate, it's filthy. It's not dialed up to 11 though. You still can see that for the most part it is white. There's just some dirt and grime here and there just speckled on the surface. Now the shoulder pads around the back, you can see these little elastic pieces. You will have to adjust them. Out of the box, the armor pieces, they will potentially have moved around during shipping, so you'll have to do a little bit of futzing just to get this guy to look as good as possible. Back around the front, his chest plate. Sculpting is on point. There are sharp angles, once again washers in the crevices, and the same thing can be said for the rubbery flexible belt and the abdomen armor as well. If you are worried about popping the backpack on, don't be, it's really simple. So yeah, it's time for some on-camera wrangling, my least favorite type of wrangling. Now if you bring the arms all the way back, it's the easiest way of getting this done. You can simply slide the straps over his shoulders, and to lock it in position, you bring the arms back down. Like I said, pretty simple. Now, you will have to do some futzing and adjusting to get everything seated correctly, but when you do, you have a clone wearing a backpack. Now, it does have a little ledge, so it's supposed to hang on top of this piece right here, but no magnets. I would have really loved a magnet in the back so you could lock this in position, but as it stands, you'll have to adjust the straps and potentially tighten them down below. Speaking of down below, no, not the clone booty, this canister on the back of his belt. Thank goodness it's permanently attached, because one of the most annoying things ever with Hot Toys clone and stormtroopers is this canister. With the scout troopers, it falls off constantly. With the snow troopers, same exact thing, but like I said, this one is fixed in position. Now it's a little bit loosey-goosey because the belt is rubbery plastic. So like I said earlier, it is adjustable. You can move it up and down or left and right, pose depending. There is also some asymmetry going on here. These pouches, they're different from one side to the other. It's a subtle detail, but I appreciate that they got that done. Then back around the front, we do have some more asymmetry, this time for his arm armor. A communicator on one side with washers in the crevices to bring out all the sculpted detail for the various buttons. And on the other side, nothing. It's completely smooth. Coming down to the legs, I can't believe it, I haven't actually spoken about the ribbed bodysuit yet. It's ribbed black fabric. Moving on. In all seriousness though, it is ribbed black fabric, and it's nice and stretchy, so when it comes to posing, it works a treat. No worries about rubbery fabric or anything pinching. Now, the leg armor, it is adjustable up and down, so if you find this gap a little bit too big, you can push it up, or if you find that it's not big enough, you can push it down. The knee pads are also on these rubbery straps, adjustable once again, and down below, his shin plates and his boots, they are absolutely filthy. Now, I'm kind of two minds here, because this guy is supposed to be from Attack of the Clones, so part of me would have loved to have seen some speckling of red dirt to mimic Geonosis. But then it would have been really movie and scene specific, and for those who just want regs in the collection, it might have been too specific, so keeping it just generally dirty rather than specific Geonosis dirty, I guess it works for more cases than it would have otherwise. Plus, down below, his treads are fully sculpted, painted in grey, and there's dirt and grime around the edges as well. Very quickly, yes, we're about to get to comparisons, and I'm super excited to see them too, but before we do, something that doesn't come across super well on camera is the feel of the armor in hand, so I thought I may as well mention it. The hard plastic pieces, they have this texture to them. They are a matte finish and they kind of feel like eggshell. That's not to say they're really delicate like eggshell, it's just that texture on the surface. Then for the rubbery plastic pieces of armor, they also have that same finish, but they're just a lot softer. For a quick side-by-side comparison, I mean, this was a gimme. I picked up multiple clone troopers, so this shot had to happen. Phase 1 on the left and Phase 2 on the right. They are, of course, the exact same figures, just wearing different helmets. But it's kinda crazy to me that because the Phase 1 is a physically bigger bucket, it kind of alters the proportions, where Phase 2, he looks a touch more realistic. If you're trying to pick between the two display options and you wanted to see them standing next to each other, well, here that is. Next up, another clone trooper. Who would have guessed? It's still Phase 1, but this time it's the 501st clone. And he has that really annoying ratchet-jointed hip situation, so he is standing up a little bit taller because his legs are either completely straight up and down, or they're at this massive A stance. Luckily, they fixed that with the new iterations of the clone body. Nevertheless, yeah, they work together. The armor is identical in terms of the mold, just one has the blue markings where the other simply doesn't. So if you did want to pop a bunch of regs behind your 501st troopers, yeah, I think they'll work together. Oh man, Hot Toys, you'll really need to make a Phase 1 Captain Rex. I adore this look for him. It's my favorite look for Captain Rex. But this old sideshow figure, it ain't it. He can't stand for shit. He's fallen over so many times, and if I sound frustrated, that's why. The proportions aren't anywhere near as good as the Hot Toys clone, plus his armor, it's a little bit softer in sculpt, a little bit bigger and bulkier, and it's got this kind of yellowish tint to it, whereas the Hot Toys one, it's more of a crisp, stark white. Next up, the original clone, if you will, the donor, Jango Fett, also by Hot Toys. And as you can see, they're really similar in height, as they should be. Once again, this is a clone of Jango, so the heights should be relatively consistent. Alright, we've switched out the Phase 1 for the Phase 2, because it just makes more sense seeing a Phase 2 Captain Rex alongside a Phase 2 Clone Trooper. They're the same height, same underlying body, and the armor sculpt is very similar, although Captain Rex, he does have a few unique parts and pieces. Also, Rex, he's completely filthy. There's dirt and grime everywhere, there's scratches, and just overall, he's got this green tint to the armor, versus once again with the Hot Toys clone, it's more of that stark white. And yep, I'm very well aware of the fact that I'm repeating myself. I've said stark white multiple times, but it's the best way I can describe the new clone. Compared to the Coruscant Guard or Shock Trooper, same height, same body, same armor, same undersuit. It's just the color scheme that's different. Now that we have multiple different versions of clones though, I cannot wait to put my display together. Multiple Coruscant Guards, multiple 501st Troopers, Phase 1 clean reg clones, and Phase 2 as well. Going over articulation, if you've seen one modern Hot Toys clone trooper, you've seen them all. He's going to move it the exact same way, but let's go through it. Starting off with his head sculpt, it's on an articulated neck with a ball joint at the bottom and a double ball peg up on top. So looking down to there, looking up to there, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there, just be aware of the colliding shoulder pad with the upper torso armor. The arms will go forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow on soft ratchets. This piece does tuck into the joint, plus a hinge and swivel for the wrist peg. The torso crunches forward and back, once again multiple different pieces overlapping, be aware of collision, swivel and pivot. The legs will go forward on ratchets to there. If you want them to go even further forward, rotate the armor, they'll go a touch higher. They will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, soft ratchets at the knee, this piece once again tucks into the joint. Then a split cut boot design with a double ball peg for the ankle, good for forward and back, swivel, and ankle rocker. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is that once again, another Hot Toys Phase 1 Clone Trooper helmet, another one with the incorrect mouth. These lines, they are far too thick. What do I mean? Well, with a Sideshow Phase 1 Clone Trooper helmet, specifically for Captain Rex, you can see these mouth lines, they're super thin, they come down to a very sharp point. Whereas the Hot Toys ones, they're just too chunky. The second annoying thing is, Hot Toys did the magnet in the back of the regular clones. You want to pop the jetpacks on from the 501st Clone Troopers, or this one just happens to be from Hot Toys Captain Rex, yeah, they're not compatible. The third annoying thing, and I realize this is a massive stretch, but I'm running out of annoying things. I've reviewed so many clones at this point that I've already said them all, but the third annoying thing is this display base is really simple. I like simple, but for a special edition 20th anniversary for Attack of the Clones figure, you'd think that, okay, Hot Toys, they'd step it up. I'm not saying they have to give us an all-out crazy diorama display base as much as I would love that, but at the very least, some printed base toppers that you can remove if you want to. We've seen them do that before, just for normal figures. The first cool thing is Hot Toys, they found some red paint in the storeroom because they decided to correctly paint the top of the fin on the Phase 1 helmet. I was so annoyed when that red was missing from the 501st Phase 1 helmet because that pop of red on an otherwise very white clone trooper, completely necessary, not to mention accurate. The second cool thing is people accuse Hot Toys of milking things all the time. I see it very regularly online, but this time they didn't milk anything because they included a Phase 2 helmet, even though this is specifically billed as a clone trooper from Attack of the Clones. So, seeing as though they only wore this particular style of helmet in the movie, they totally could have opted not to include the Phase 2 bucket and sell you an entirely separate clone trooper. Luckily, they decided not to do that, which is the wise choice. Us clone collectors, the hardcore among us, I count me as one of them, we're kind of a bit funky when it comes to our clone troopers. We want them to be identical, yes, they're clones. But also we want variety, we want them to look a little bit different from one another in the display. Just so it doesn't look like we've bought 5 or 6 the exact same thing. So, customizability is the name of the game. And even though I'm pretty sure we never saw this backpack until Clone Wars on a clone trooper, they decided to chuck it in. So you can have a couple of them wearing the backpack, you can have some of them with the rocket launcher, some of them with the blaster rifle, and other ones with the Phase 2 helmet. There is variety here, and that's the third cool thing. Wrapping up on Hot Toys Episode 2, Attack of the Clones 20th Anniversary Plain White Clone Trooper. Not a shiny though, because Hot Toys, they've kept that card in the back pocket for a rainy day. This guy's also not quite a veteran. He's somewhere in the middle. I really like this figure. He's a perfect army builder, whether you're building a Phase 1 clone collection or a Phase 2 clone collection. You've got plenty of options here. You've got both buckets, you've got multiple different weapons, and you've got a backpack. So even though they are clones, they don't have to look identical in the display, and I'm all for that. I've picked up 4 of them, and probably need to pick up a few more as well. Let me know how many you're going to get down in the comments section. As for the figure himself from a technical perspective, he's well done. I love the clone trooper body, we've seen it a ton of times before, and it's still really good here. It's got ratchet joints where it needs to, but also friction joints in other areas where they've learnt from their mistakes with previous clones. So they've made a couple of changes and improvements over the years as they've gone on. The fabric bodysuit is awesome for posing, no complaints there. And then the armor on top of that fabric bodysuit looks great, looks accurate, but also it's functional. Which is kind of crazy because it was never a functional, practical thing in the film. In Attack of the Clones, all of the clone trooper suits of armor, they were CGI, they were movie magic, baby. So Hot Toys, they literally needed to make something that never existed in the first place. And it fit the body well, and it be functional, and it be posable. They pulled it off. Like I said just a moment ago, I'm really happy with this clone trooper. I want so many more of them. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have pay in 4 and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.